you, Byron?
Life is incredible.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome to Provocateurs.
Provocateur. It sounds provocative. All right.
How provocative should we make it?
Listen, I'm ready to go. So
Yeah.
yeah, tell me whatever. Give it all to me. I'm ready to go.
So you're Mr. Self-Made.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my name's Dr. Byron Cole,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the books is Self-Made. But before the book was actually there, I gave myself that claim to fame of being self-made. I would say probably if you look at my journey, everything that I've done is by oneself. I come from a very poor background and environment, and whilst I haven't made it yet, I've done some cool things and achieved some cool milestones in life. And so here I am, Mr. B self-made. And some people say I should change it to Dr. B, but hey,
Dr. B.
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, because I've got my doctorate now. So yeah, we'll see. We'll keep it to Mr. B for now.
That's got a good
Yeah.
ring to it, Dr. B.
Yeah, Dr. B, right? Yeah.
And so you are also in business with your wife.
Yes, indeed.
I've been to some of your events, which
Yeah.
are kick-ass.
Good.
You know how to throw a good party.
Yeah. Thank you.
What's that dynamic like, working together?
Yeah. So you came to the Shard.
I did. It was your 40th.
Yes,
and her
the Shard.
35th.
220 people, top 2 floors,
It was
partying like a rock
amazing.
star.
Yeah,
It's good fun, right?
it was.
Yeah.
It was really
So
good. I met
just
some epic people.
great people in the room. That's typical environment of our events.
Yeah.
It's like just good people, good energy, networking, but having fun. You know.
Yeah.
So the dynamics to the question. So yes, we've been married some time now, 7 years or so. Been together maybe 16 years or so.
16.
So yeah, something like that. Yeah, 16. Yeah, we've been together a long time, maybe longer. And yeah, it's a cool dynamic. We're both entrepreneurs. She's an entrepreneur. She's a personal branding expert. I manage her speaking career, so I negotiate all of her deals with Facebook, Accenture, PwC, EY, all these FTSE 100 brands, but also events as well to talk about personal branding. So our dynamic's really cool. She's a rock star in itself with what she does, and yeah, it's cool. Can't complain.
So you manage her speaking gigs?
Yeah.
Right.
And believe it or not, what do you think? Do you think I charge her for the pleasure?
Do you?
What do you think? I'm asking you. What do you think?
Hmm.
How do you feel about that if someone did that to you?
What if my partner charged me?
Yeah,
It's fair business
booking
exchange,
it.
actually.
It's business, right?
Yeah.
So I think I outperform respectfully her speaking agent, and I'm good at what I do.
Right. So how do you two then operate with money? So
In
you
what
bill
sense?
her
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. Well, now I don't actually have to bill her anymore. She just gives me a percentage.
Okay. Okay.
I do want a pay rise, I must add, but you know that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, she pays me for the pleasure, as she would her booking agent.
Yeah.
But also it requires a degree of trust because I also say no to some bookings and some things that I don't think are quite on brand. So I think, you know, for the last 10 years of managing her, 11 years, it was only her I was managing. Now I'm opening that up to other people. You know, I've done 7 figures of bookings plus, you know, and it's like, you have to trust the person that's booking for you. You know, some things are not quite on brand. Some things, the number's not quite where you want it to be. So what's the alternative exchange? But yeah, I enjoy it. And look, I think it's fair. Like, you're going to pay your agent. Why wouldn't you pay me? You know?
Agreed.
So
then where do you guys sit with like traditional male-female dynamics and roles?
great question. When we first moved in together, Bianca said to me, well, I kind of said what I'm prepared to do in the house and what I'm not prepared to do in the house. And look, whilst I like a clean house, whilst I like certain things, I'm not that. You're not going to see me on a Sunday morning doing the skirting board, okay, of the whole house. So we had this conversation very early on, and the answer for that was well, I'm not going to do it either then, right? And so I was like, okay, cool. So we're going to get cleaner. We're going to split the cost. And she was like, cool. And from that day till now, we've always had house help. And I think that has been a tremendous help in our relationship because there's never, you wake up in the morning, things are dirty, there's always someone there to come and help.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when you think about it relatively, like, let's say we're in the UK at the moment, fine, the cost is £20 an hour, right? Like, for what do you get for that? my fridge is cleaner than yours. My skirting boards are cleaned more frequently than yours. Like, why would you go and do these things other than any other reason other than budget? Some people say, but I like cleaning. Like, but you can also like doing other things with your life and your time. Like, we can do something more fun, right? And then you're gonna be like, oh, I always clean while I'm watching football. Like, so we've always had that. So in terms of traditional roles, she does like to cook. She does cook well. Doesn't do it every single day, and that's cool. I'm okay with that. And she's an entrepreneur, so she does have those some masculine traits, as you will. She's a boss. She has her own team. She runs her own business. She does incredible things. So the dynamics work, and I'm perfectly okay. Like, some people say, do you not feel like, she's like, I'm cool. I want to elevate her and put her as much as I don't mind. I'm okay. If she wants to retire me, I'll be her sugar baby. Yeah, I'm all right with that. Like, I've got no problem with that. People say, yeah, that's because you've achieved certain things, and maybe that's the case, right? But yeah, no. So in terms of like coming back to the question, like traditional roles, we're still. Give me 3 or 4 examples of traditional roles.
Okay, so the man is the protector, provider.
Yeah. So the way I'm very protective, and I have some perhaps. You always want to make sure your partner's safe, and you always want to make sure that they're doing things. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to fix it. So I always want to do things. Of course, I'm a protector. In terms of provider, I think now it's very different because she makes a lot of money, right? So the thing is, our company, we have a joint company together. So there's no household cost that she has to pay for necessarily. So the company pays for basically everything within reason. So she doesn't got no household cost. So any money that she makes is also hers, and then she still gets dividends and so on and so forth. So there's no, in terms of like financial contribution required necessarily from her. So I don't know if where that fits in the traditional.
Well, that would maybe be classed as traditional, right? Yeah.
But she works, so she also contributes to the business, which ends up paying for everything. I mean, there's no travel costs. The company can pay for it all. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. So okay, yeah. So I guess it's quite traditional in some respects. Obviously, we've just had a beautiful baby boy, and she's on maternity leave, but coming back 2 days a week at the moment. That's the transition. So I guess traditional in that sense. She's going to be the one looking after the baby more than me. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good fun.
So how do you both make decisions with money? I know we had a conversation maybe a few months back when we were just catching up on Zoom.
Yeah,
and you were telling me about the differences.
Yeah, she's a saver. She's a saver and I'm a spender. And I'm not a spender on me, but I just love to invest in the business and businesses to try and get more, do more, achieve more. So she's definitely a saver, and that's great, and that works perfectly. And I'm just like, okay, cool. We've just done this deal. This money's in. What can we do to make more or explore different things? Let's try ads. Let's try this. Let's try that. And she's just a saver. So very, very different. And it works. Yeah. She's definitely a saver. I'll give her that. I'll give her the dues there.
So do you have arguments then?
Never. No. We probably have. Well, in terms of what money?
What money? Yeah.
Never. Never. Sometimes she thinks what I'm investing in is like, yeah, but do we need to do that? Like, for example, the other day, we've got a speakers academy where we help professionals become speakers, right? And I was like, hey, this is great. It's working well. Revenue's great. It's helping people. They're getting results. How can I get more people in the room other than doing what we're doing now or doing ads? And I was like, well, people bring people. So I said to her, well, let's just bring the biggest people in their industry and pay them to come into our event to speak on stage. So example, Stephen Bartlett. It's going to cost me 25 grand, right? But he brings 250 people. It's done my job for me. So I now have a board where I have to take some decisions too. So I said to her, and I said to the board, and they were like, it's too much risk, because he might not show up. We've had that before. Major speakers not showed up, told us 2 days before they're not coming. So we've had that experience before. But I'm just like,
do it.
25 grand, that's nothing compared to what we'll generate. Look at what we generate now without that. And that's kind of there. So she's less risk taking. And I don't see that as a risk personally. What's your feelings on that furthermore?
What?
Like having a big speaker come in, pay them to come in, that brings their audience.
I think there's no guarantee. If it's not their event, if they're not behind that in the messaging and what they're bringing forward, how do you know they're going to push it?
I don't want them to push it. I just want them to show up.
So how do you know? Yeah, okay.
They don't want them to do anything. But I know by having a Tony Robbins or whoever it is, right? He's a bit more expensive.
I think if you trust the way that you market, you trust the way that you bring something forward, and you know your numbers on that, and you know your usual ROI, well then it is a no-brainer. Because you know that you fill a room of X with X, so therefore that will attract more people.
I agree.
Yeah, if it's marketed well, as long as the reliance isn't on them.
No, the reliance is bringing the people in the room, and the people will naturally convert.
But you're not expecting them to promote and
I don't want to do anything. No. Just be there and have a conversation and go.
And also, it's good for your brand.
Yes, thank you.
Just to be associated.
I want to know what the people think.
Yeah,
so
to be associated with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a winning strategy. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm gonna push it again in a few months. I'm gonna go back and be like, Sarah said. I
think I've got a new voice on the NED.
Yes, do it for September. Anyway, so yeah.
Okay, so relationships and money. A lot of people actually divorce over this stuff, right? And have differing opinions around it. You and Bianca seem like you've created a good common ground, a good level of understanding around this.
Yeah.
But at what point should you have the conversation around money when you're dating someone?
Ooh, what stage? I think very early on. But it depends on what you mean by the conversation about money, like how much you earn, like how much you're paying towards the bills.
How much you value it. So you and Bianca clearly value money, right? That's a shared.
Yeah.
Not everyone shares that value.
I don't know if we say we value money. We like to earn money because it gives you a way of life that suits the way you want to live. But also, I have a view of life of spend it because you can always make it back. That's how I see it. I'm like, look, what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work. Okay. I've got skill. I've got ability. I've got knowledge. I can always do the business again and make it back. So I think we value it. That's perhaps why she's a saver and I'm a spender. So when do you have that conversation about money? Well, I do think though there are some conversations you need to have when you first start dating someone that might be a bit awkward, because if you're sharing some financial responsibilities and they've got, can I swear on this? Like, what are the rules?
Yeah.
If they've got shit credit, right? Then that's
going to impact you.
It's impacting you.
Yeah.
And you need to understand how good they are with money. So you have to understand what's their history, and just because they were a certain way, it doesn't mean they're going to be that way moving forward. But now, whoever it might be might have to babysit or nurture or grow with that person as they make those changes. So it just depends. The question is an interesting question, but I think money is important to have. Have clarity on the type of person you're dating, really.
Yeah. So what question should you ask to get that clarity?
I mean, I'm an old man now, I'm not the right guy for this question. But
you're good with money. You've got a relationship where you're supporting each other in that way. You've got this knowledge. I give all my friends relationship advice.
Exactly. I'll be like
16 years, you're smashing
I'm like, listen, ask it. You need to understand who's paying. Even just down to dates, just on the first date, who's paying on the first date? I say to my male friends, really and truly, you should. I'm more of a person that will say the men should pay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I know it doesn't. Everyone's not happy with that. The man should pay. Really, that's just the way it should be. Like, if you're going on a date, going to dinner, like, you should just pay. It doesn't matter how much she earns. So that's my opinion anyway. First date, how about you? If a man says 50-50 on the first date, how do you feel?
No.
If the bill comes and he says, oh, okay, well, can I just pay half, please?
He's got to pay.
He's got to pay.
And I'm coming from a certain place in life where my experience has led me to want to experience that. So I haven't always had that, and I haven't always valued that.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up in a family with a lot of money.
Yeah.
My parents were church pastors and teachers.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, when I was 14 years old, became disabled from the waist down. He was paralysed. He couldn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. So my mum had to do everything. Okay. So my subconscious life choices was just like, oh, I didn't know that men should pay.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh yeah, okay, I'll pay. Wow. I make more money.
So you had a transition.
Yeah. So then I started to oh.
You started to like it. It happened and you liked it.
Well, no, I started to go, I don't need to choose that I pay all the time. I could choose someone who makes more money than me or has a different value system around that. Yeah. And I enjoyed that experience more.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
So you can change.
You can change, absolutely. But I think
experience different things.
Yeah, experience different things. That's what I say.
See what feels
Go
right.
Go and experience
the
world, travel.
Yeah.
Pay, you said that you had a great date and she said that she paid half. So, what really happened, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, you have the money conversation early, I think, is important, and goals, it's all about goals, isn't it? What do you want? What are your values? What do you want in life? Yeah, and look, you can ask some questions that can really understand not what someone is doing, but you can kind of gauge, can't you? You could ask, do you... I don't think it's offensive. Oh, do you own your home, or is it? Are you a first-time buyer? Okay, cool. What ISAs do you recommend? Which ISAs? You can just ask some very subtle questions that are just like, oh, okay. Oh, not sure actually. Okay, whatever.
Those are great ideas.
Yeah,
I've never thought about asking someone about ISAs and investments.
Yeah. Okay. Any particular ISAs you recommend? Okay, cool. I'm looking for a solicitor to do my or somebody to do my life insurance. Do you recommend anybody? Okay. Have you got your trust set up already? Do you have... Listen, okay, no life insurance. Listen, some of these things are not red flags, by the way. They're just a lack of knowledge and awareness, and they haven't got the right people around them. And that's fine. Life insurance. Do they have a trust? And all these things. And some people say they haven't got much. Well, yeah, you're probably richer dead than alive. But then also, one thing that's guaranteed is you will die. So at least protect the family and friends around you, or whoever is your beneficiary. So you can ask questions that are very subtle. Do you know what this comes down to? It's like in business, preparation. Mm-hmm. Have your questions ready and in place.
And before you get the feels. Yes. Before you let the feelings get involved.
Yes. Have the questions.
Get the structure down right.
Like, okay, cool. Like, do you have this in place? Do you have that in place? Blah, blah, blah. You understand?
Yeah.
I think some things come down to as well, how worldly you are. I'm not saying travel is everything, but the more worldly you are, the more exposed you are to things, the more experienced you are with things, the more you know about things. So yeah.
I think also, isn't there beauty in someone not having to have everything together?
Yeah.
And seeing the ways that you can actually, you might be a woman listening to this right now, and have your shit sorted in that area.
Absolutely.
I.e., you got your ISAs, you got your trust, you got your life insurance. Because your life experience has led you to have that thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But guaranteed, if you've done that piece, there'll be bits that you don't have in your life.
Absolutely.
Because you put time, energy and effort into that.
Yeah.
And maybe there's actually something else that man can bring to you.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you say it's maybe more about finding the way that you can benefit each other and help each other rather than it having to be a certain way?
It depends what you want in life. It depends what you want from a partner.
Maybe
true. You don't need all of that. It just depends. It's so many variables. But it's really interesting if we're on this relationship topic I have so many incredible, eligible bachelorette females and that have their shit together, that are doing incredible in their careers or their businesses, own their own homes. The tick boxes that we would attribute to having your shit together. But finding Mr. Right as opposed to Mr. Perfect is still a challenge.
Oh, hello.
Why is that?
Hello.
Why is that?
Yeah, I think, okay, so I actually had this conversation with one of the girls who's renting a room for me at the moment this morning. And it's this dichotomy between you want to be emotionally supported. Big thing. Yeah. Especially as you get older as a woman and you got your shit together. There's a lot of men who, I'm going to say it like I see it. Yeah. When they have put a lot of time, energy and effort into the financial area of their life and really grinding that out, you sometimes do not feel as emotionally supported and connected. So I'm not saying all the time. I'm
so
saying
the men
sometimes.
that are doing well in life don't have the time.
They just haven't maybe done as much work in that area. From our lived experience, we were saying. Yeah, so sometimes what you find
from your lived experience,
is what we've found from our lived experience is we will get like these strong emotional connections and feel really supported and like, oh my God, I feel so safe in his arms and from people who maybe haven't made the financial success and stuff in the world. Yeah. And there's a big piece around that where we have that need. Yeah. Is our need as strong for the man to be a multi-millionaire, to have X amount in the bank, if you've got that area of your life to a level that you are happy with? You might not be at the actual peak of where you're going to go, but maybe I'm not saying all women, but maybe we don't have that same driver. But perhaps we are a little bit softer and more malleable with it. And I think what our desire is to have a man that we feel safe with, and that doesn't always mean financial.
So that's very interesting. So are you attracting a certain type of person as well then? Does that mean? And therefore their priority isn't always the relationship. The business comes first.
What's your perspective on that? Should business come first or should the relationship come first?
Great question.
You led me to it.
Now, knowing so many driven entrepreneurs who are actually mostly in long-term relationships, but the business is, I wouldn't say the main priority, but they will make some decisions that the business comes first on many decisions that they make. And it just is what it is.
I've seen that.
So like, I've got to do this. It's work. There's no compromise. It's work. And I think we're all kind of we're trying to achieve more and do more, which sometimes is not necessary because
what's it for?
But that's just the natural disposition of the psychology of like, we just want to, it's just that constant, this is who we are in our DNA. But then I think it's more about having the boundaries and having clarity and being able to communicate that, okay, this is what I need in order to be happy. This is what I need in order to be, for us to have a healthy relationship. So even like if I bring it to like our relationship, I make sure, I always say things to the boys, right? It's like, do the things with your partner that you would also do with the boys or whatever. It's got to be balanced. You can't always come home at 4 a.m. every Friday or Saturday night, and then when you go out with your missus, you're home at 10.
Yeah.
So what, you can't have fun with? You got to make it, you got to have a balance, right? And it's like, you got to have those same experiences with your partner that you do also with, if that's what she likes as well. Especially if she likes to go to dinners, if she likes to go to restaurants or travel, make that same effort. You can't go on holiday with the boys 4 times in the year and then you go for a 3-day weekender to somewhere. You got to do the same things. And I find that when you do those things, so like with my relationship, I make sure I do the same types of dinners I'll do with the boys. We'll go and we'll do our thing. And I'm quite proactive with it. I'm a planner. Plan events and all these. I'm a planner, and I'm also always finding cool places, and I get invited to cool places as well. So I'm like, yeah, we're going. So I find that works really well.
Experience.
Yeah, experience. So you experience things together. Then when you're doing your weekend with the boys, you haven't got as much stress in life. Yeah. She's alright. Her cup is full as well. So Yeah, I don't know how we got there, but we're
So
there.
we were talking about, is it relationship or business
so
first?
it was the boundaries. It was like, okay, to make me happy. So I'm happy. This is what I want to do. I want to see you 3 times a week. Is that possible? No. Okay, cool. What can we, like, it's having that conversation and that communication. And because the business is always going to be like his first love if he hasn't got children. Like, so you've been to sleep in the car for this business.
So it's kind of acceptance. What you're saying is it's acceptance if you're going to look for a high value man.
Yeah.
That is going to be his priority.
Yeah.
And what I've heard next, which I think is gold, is can you both communicate and agree upon the way that your relationship will be fulfilling, enjoying, like you'll have that fulfillment and that pleasure together around that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's success.
That's it.
For a high value man.
I think so. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Oh no, I agree.
Yeah.
From my experience, that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I think where it breaks down is if you can't meet in agreement on that second piece.
Absolutely.
If you can't find that common ground of like, actually that's not enough time.
Yeah.
Like I am gonna not feel fulfilled. Like I am gonna, my needs need to be met in a different place then because you're not present.
But even just the smaller things, like as I'm thinking about it, like when I speak to my female friends, they're like, "Oh, he's always on the phone." Or if you want that, this is the life you're gonna choose. It's not, maybe whether it's right or wrong, and some people might be upset about it. But I'm just telling you about not just the lived experience, but I see it so many places. And my friend said to me once, he went away with his partner, and she was like, "Oh, are you okay? You're not talking to me." Like, you don't have. There doesn't always have to be communication.
No.
Just because he's not talking. And like when we go away, it's so funny. We went to Dominican Republic. Me and 6 entrepreneurs. We stayed in a villa, and there could be silence for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, and no one's even thinking anything. Everyone's working or on their phone, and it was also a very interesting dynamic to see, because often we do a lot of short trips, boys trips. This was a long one, and so interesting to see people getting up at 6 a.m, working, and just silence. Everyone just grafting.
It's an understanding.
Yeah, and I was on a semi, relaxation mode. I wasn't working as much as they were, and I was have our breakfast, go by the pool, leave them to it. And I think sometimes when you don't have that communication in a relationship, you don't understand.
And it brings disconnection. Yeah. So fatherhood.
Yes.
And that's the new experience for you.
My new experience, newborn. Yeah.
7 weeks?
It's 9 weeks, like Saturday. 9 weeks Saturday,
9 weeks. And what does that look like for you? What has it meant to you? What's been the shifts in your life?
I've worked 6-7 days a week for the last 10 plus years. I'm obsessed with working. I've built some, I've put myself in a good position. Still want to do way more in life, of course. Nowhere near where I would want to be. But it's allowed me to really slow down when I want to. Although I only took 2 weeks off and went back. We have an office. One of our offices is in our house upstairs. So on the top floor, we've got an office, desks, screens, everything, and we share an office. And fatherhood has meant for me now that I've slowed down. So I'm not going out as much. As in, I might just take a meeting to have a conversation to see what opportunities can arise. I'm not taking those meetings anymore. I'm not out as much later than I need to be. I'm just conscious as well that, hey, I actually want to go home. And like, it's weird, after like a couple of hours, you're missing the kid, She's like, don't you miss me? I'm like, I miss you too. But it's just so different, right?
Yeah.
It's something new and so on and so forth, and there's a different bond and so on. So it's been an incredible 9 weeks. Maybe we've made it look easier than it should look, because I know that people don't also have these kind of experiences, or the support that we have or the experience that we have, and they've not experienced that, or they had a bad experience or whatever it may be. But my experience from day one to now has been absolutely flawless. I'm like, even making decisions like, should you go private or not? And why? And like, we've not really spoke about it publicly yet. Well, Bianca spoke about it publicly and had some interesting backlash about it. And it's just so interesting, kind of what people think and why they make their decisions. And I just say, do what's right for you.
Yeah.
And do what's right within your budget, right? So our experience was absolutely phenomenal and textbook. And, I was having afternoon tea 3 hours after he was born in the room. And photographer came. The passport man came, did the passport photos there and then. Like, his passport, and one of my mentees deals with passports, sent in the WhatsApp. Passport was there 10 days later. So yeah, look, fatherhood has been absolutely incredible for me so far. Loving the journey. I'm sure there are many challenges to many bumps on this road, but so far, thank God, it's been incredible. So yeah.
And so, how intentional were you about the conversations that you had? Like, how intentional were you about deciding to have a kid?
Yeah, so we've been kind of talking about it for, do I want to have it? Does she want to have it? And we was like, yeah, we want to have children. We want to have children, but we was not proactive. And everyone was always asking, are you going to have children? Are you going to have children? And we were just enjoying each other. Like, we traveled the world together. We've traveled so many, too many places to list. We've traveled together. We've enjoyed. And even during, the tough times in 2020, we was traveling the world. And we were just enjoying life together. And then one day Bianca came home and said, okay, it's time now. And I was like, all right, cool. Sometimes it takes someone to just make that decision. I was like, all right, cool, let's do it then. And then that was it. 3 months later, 2 months later, that was it. So yeah, it was always, I think it takes one person, otherwise you're both like, yeah, okay, but when? Like, when do you set this arbitrary timeline?
Yeah.
So
there's never a right time.
There's never a right time
for anything.
That's
the time that you decide.
Yeah.
Make a decision and you do it.
And we just did it, and yeah, we're here. So yeah, it was a mutual decision, which was I was reminded, hey, I'm ready now. Okay, cool.
So how much money should you have in the bank to have a kid?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first of all, let me say this. I doff my cap to all the solo mums,
or
right?
solo dads,
or solo dads, right? Because I salute you. Oh my gosh, if there was not two of us, wow! Even just consulting on a problem, or how he's had a little bit of sick, or like, what do you think? Just having that conversation. So let's just call it support system, because you can get that maybe from your mum or your sister or whatever, right? So the support system. If you don't have the support system, wow. But doing it by yourself, because like sleep deprivation is a killer, and this baby needs to be seen every 2 to 3 hours, right? And I know some people say their lived experiences, their child slept through the night. Fine. I accept that. That's not textbook. But it happens, whatever. So if you're doing it by yourself, woo, it's hard. Not getting a good night's sleep. I was speaking to my cousin. We were very similar in age and we grew up together. She's had a child as well. She's like, she's not had a good night's sleep in like 2 years. And I'm like, you know how you feel after a couple of nights of not a good night's sleep, right? You're not at your peak performance. You feel a bit different. It feels you have a bit of a headache sometimes. So imagine not being able to have a good night's sleep for years. Then the second part is, to your question, is about how much money do you need? I don't know how much money you need, but I know that the cost of living is not cheap right now. And the cost of living with a child, wow. If you don't have money or access to some disposable income, how do you do it? Even the things like just your startup kit. Your pushchair, your prams, your buy the bed cots, your this, your that. Like, these all cost money. It's not free, and even just the milk. You can do everything on a budget. Of course you can. But I'm like, whoa, like, this is not cheap. And then if you want to, I'm not privately educated. She is privately educated. But I'm with the send our child to have private education. I'm perfectly happy with that. When I speak to people about costs and stuff like that, they're talking about 12 grand a year, 15 grand a year, 20 grand a year, more some places. So you're like, okay, cool. And that can start from as little as like 3. And like, how do you do it? Yeah.
So should broke people have kids?
Well, one of the things I would say is this, right? It doesn't cost any money to have a child, right? Well, not anyone can have a child. But
yeah, to actually do the act don't cost anything.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything, right?
Well, sometimes it does,
to do
but
the
that's another story.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's no barrier to entry in terms of a cost.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes there is actually. You got to take it out for a day. You got to do this, right? But I think if you do not have the financial means to support your family and your child, you have no business, in my opinion, having children. I don't think you should rely upon the state in that way to you shouldn't be having children. And like, we all find ourselves in circumstances and environments where you may need to call upon, we all have bad times, and you may need to call upon help or whatever. And that's not what I'm saying here. I grew up living in a council estate. I'm sure my mum needed that support to raise me and to bring me up. Yes, cool. But making a conscious decision about life and planning your life, you need to have a financial plan to support said child and your family. Otherwise, you just got no business doing it. So I don't have a number, but these things are not cheap.
And I like what you said there, because if I think back to my lived experience, we didn't grow up with money. So I like what you said about conscious choice, because you can choose something before something in life just happens.
Yeah.
Let's come back to my childhood. We didn't have a lot of money. Did I feel like as a child I didn't have? Never.
Never experienced. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Never ever felt like I didn't have.
Yeah.
So my parents have said, church pastors, when I now know what I know, there was a lot of support that was given to them because of the community. So it was like a community way of life. There was a lot of like, I'll help you out when you need it, you help me out, like how they got their house, someone gave them the deposit for the mortgage, So like now, like that house that they got at 80 grand is worth like 700.
Of course.
But they didn't even have that because there was a value system that they held, which was character, people. We do it together. You don't need to do it alone. So I think growing up in that, I'm super grateful for that. And to add to what you just said, what is it that you can choose consciously, because you now have a different choice? So just because you grew up a certain way doesn't mean that you have to continue to choose that. You can make a different choice and educate yourself, right? And I think that's where the planning and stuff comes in. And then when I think to my lived experience, last year my sister passed away. So she was 6 months pregnant, just had given birth, and now my brother-in-law is a widow. And is bringing up my nephew alone, but not alone.
Absolutely,
He's a police detective sergeant. By that salary, you'd be like, not crazy, but he's been very smart with money. His family's been very smart with money. He knows all about investments, and he's bringing that foundation up. I'm like, River is my nephew's in great hands, right? In great hands. And it's again a community upbringing, because where my sister's not there, life has happened. They didn't plan for that.
Absolutely.
Like there was nothing about that was in their 10-year or 5-year plan. But how do you respond? Who do you have around you? What have you built around you, so that when the situations of life present themselves, you can't you can't make rhyme or reason of how much planning have you done before that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that conversation about death is like, I had to have that conversation with my business partner very recently. You know, what happens in the event that me and Bianca both die? Like, what happens? You know, and he was like, oh, you've ruined my Sunday.
It's real talk.
It's real. I'm like, because I'm updating my will and I need to know what I'm going to put in there. Like, there's a 0.0001% chance that this happens, but it might happen. God forbid. What do we do? You know, so
death and taxes are two things.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Unless you move to Dubai.
Yeah, even there's taxes are still there. Now there's still taxes, right? Yeah. So they tax in a different way.
Yeah,
they make you feel nice about the tax. So yeah, like these are real things, and just planning and just having these awkward conversations, and like I've got to update my will and like my trust and like what happens, and so these are all very interesting things in life. But yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, and necessary. Yeah. And if you're building something of worth and value, that you want to continue,
absolutely,
you need to have it, right?
Yeah.
So on to that, like, what's important to you in terms of legacy or leaving your mark with everything you're building?
If we're talking about here, what I want to leave to baby Cole, I don't think I'm going to leave him like, he might get a house. That might be, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, what you're trying to bring up this new human being and you want them to be a good person by every will in the world. He may not be or whatever, but it's like, how I also want to live my life and I also want to enjoy my life. And I also think there is something about working for the things that you have in life. Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to give him a head start, of course, and that's why he's going to have in my belief, his private education, his support system, whatever. So I'm not leaving everything to him. Of course, he will be the beneficiary. God forbid I don't get to spend it or enjoy it. But I was literally thinking about this the other day. I was like, maybe I'm just going to buy, because I looked at all these ISAs and all these things that they can have. It's new to me at the moment, all these new baby stuff. And I was like, maybe I'm just going to buy a flat locally and say, okay, just put the term over the 18 years. And then cost-wise, I looked at it in my mind, the startup cost was quite negligible. It's still money, but negligible. And I know in 25 years, that's going to 2x, 3x. Mm-hmm. You can have that. That's your one flat, all right? That's now worth 400 grand. You've got that head start in life. If you want to make your mistakes, you make your mistakes. If you want to live in there, you can live in there. If you want to sell it, you can sell it. I'm sure there's going to be other ways he can extract money from me as I get older. Time goes on. But that was kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be like, you're a trust fund baby. I don't want to be like, you're a trust fund baby. And like, you got to get to work.
I think there is such a beauty in the entrepreneurs that haven't had investment. I think there is such a beauty in entrepreneurs that have bootstrapped and learn through lived experience the hard way. Absolutely. And I think to having children, I'd want to create that experience for a child.
Yeah.
Like the minute you've given someone something, where's the value?
Yeah.
Where's the respect?
But then also, so I agree with you, but you might just have a really good child who's actually a hard worker, sensible. Then you're like...
But how do you learn hard work, Byron?
Some people are just hard workers. Like, for example, like Bianca, obviously she came from more of a... not a well-off, but her parents were entrepreneurs. She went to private school, and she's a hard worker. So, and she's also trustworthy. So, if she went into, if she was given everything, you might not begrudge her for that. Maybe not, because of the personality.
Understood. Fair.
So, I'm in agreement with you. But then, just to give balance to the argument, depends on the child.
And perhaps we're saying we're in agreement with that because it's been our lived experience.
Yes,
so
exactly.
we've had to struggle.
Yeah.
We've had to graft.
And that'll be the majority of people.
Yeah. We've had to make that.
Yeah.
So we're going, there can't be another way.
Yeah.
There is always another way.
There's always another way. And maybe we'll be like, when we're 20 years older and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, go on, son. Just.
Yeah.
But then you might have a child who's just whatless, just useless and just doesn't want to work or put the graft. Yeah. You just don't know what you're going to have.
And I think it's the attitude to it, isn't it? It's like, I think if you've got if you've got an environment where gratitude is expressed, where real respect for something is expressed, where you're getting that feedback, you give more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is what, when you get that, you give more there. You're like, this is what you deserve. Like, there is something that's going to be fed back there. If the child was ungrateful...
Absolutely. But the
challenge
is you've got to plan now. That's the thing. You don't know what you're going to get at the end.
But don't you create what you get?
No, do you know what? I don't think always you can, you know? It's like when you have two children, like I have many friends who have two children and they're completely different. They're completely different in personality. One was this way, one is that way, one's more this. They're completely, you just don't know. So, of course, you're going to do everything you can to, you know, make your child have all the right morals and values, but you just might not. It's just that kid might be a scumbag.
It's true, and it's who you surround yourself with over the years and the times. Like, it doesn't take you 2 minutes to look at a family and go, interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I don't know. You just don't know. But when you talk about planning now, it's like, okay, what do I want to do so that I don't have to worry about it in 20 years' time?
So what are those conversations that you're having then that you don't have
to worry about? They're very early.
Yeah.
They're very early in its at the moment. I literally just voice noted 2 of my brokers and financial advisors, and I was like, okay, cool, what are the things we need to do? And he just sent me a voice note of all the things I need to do. I just sent that voice note to Bianca, and then she went and basically opened the account and did the ISO, all these things. But I was just like, some of these things are like 5%, 4%. It's like, one of the great things in the UK we have is taxation. You know, they were the masters of taxation. They created
one of the great things.
Well, podcast friendly. One of the greatest things they've created. One of the things they're the masters at is taxation. So they are great at taxation.
Fair.
So they tax. The easy to tax are employees. If you're in employment, if you are a homeowner, if you're a car user, these are your typical easy to tax groups of people. Okay. So, you know, money in the bank, whatever, it's not helping you anyway, right? So now you have to start thinking about, how do I mitigate that? Because there's going to be a new tax relating to property 20 years down the line. Okay, cool. They've changed it now. You can't offset the interest against it. You can't do that. There's always going to be a change. So what happens at the end when I transfer this out? You know, how do I implement that now so it owns and belongs to the trust? There's so many variables. So the conversation is very early because we're not 9 weeks in. It's all right. And I'm deciding what I want to do for him, and I don't know what that is yet. I don't know what it looks like yet. I'm like, do I use that money now? Wait, I don't know. And there's no right or wrong answer.
There isn't a right or wrong answer.
It's like, it depends on what you want to do. Yeah, wish me luck.
I do. And I think what I love about what I'm hearing is I kind of connect with what you're saying in business. You know, like when people sit there, and I'm sure, well, I know you mentor loads of people, loads of different types of business.
Yeah.
So how I relate to business, I'm like, get into action. Yeah, a bit of strategy at the beginning, right? But get into action and let it move, and then re-strategize when you're in action to see what feedback you're getting.
Just get started.
Right? Start taking some action.
Yeah.
How do you sit with that?
I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Do it first and then learn. Because sometimes you can procrastinate. Should I do it? Is it the right thing to do? Just do it.
Yeah.
Get on with it. Learn, and then obviously make improvements. It's never going to be perfect. Even when you've had your business for years and you're making money, it's still got to make changes. But I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Get out there, do it, experience it. And sometimes there is strategy behind it. And I always say invest in yourself. You know, people think, you know, sometimes people don't, I think it goes over some people's head when they talk about investing in themselves. And that is whether you're in a 9-to-5 or you're an entrepreneur. You know, being the best version of yourself for sure in all walks of life. And even when I speak to salespeople, just digressing, because I speak to quite a lot of salespeople recently, I'm like, cool, what training are you doing at the moment? And they're like, oh, I'm not doing any training. It's like, how can you be the best salesperson I'm competitive. If I'm in any environment, I want to be number one. Not everybody wants that. Fine, I get it. But like, you can only be as good as your manager if your manager is the only person that teaches you. So
and that's if you're willing to learn.
That's if you're willing to learn. right? So, and you might not even like your manager. So, okay, where else can you get that source of information? And I was talking to someone the other day about they're in marketing and I'm not sure how long ago, they were relatively new to their role. And I was like, okay, cool, it's the end of the month. So like, how's your pipeline looking? And they was talking about the pipeline. And I was like, okay, what are your closing? What are the techniques you're using to close? Like, what are your closing words? Like, and then I was like, okay, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And they're like, oh, wow. It's like, don't your manager talk to you about these things? And it's like, and this was just literally a 15-minute conversation. I was like, this is just basic stuff that I've been learning for 20 years. You know, strategies to close, asking for the business, different ways, and just like.
And that does set you apart from the rest.
Yeah.
Because if you think about, you knew that they don't.
Yeah. But that's their job. That's the difference. It's not actually my job. So yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And I know we had a conversation again a little while ago about creatives.
Yeah.
Why won't you mentor creatives?
I have a lot of creative friends, first of all.
Well, firstly, what's a creative by the definition that we were talking about? Because ultimately we are all creative.
Yeah. Let's refine it then to creative industries.
Yeah.
Music, art, comedy, those types of creatives. Let's put that into it. So people that don't need to, whose work often isn't on a daily basis. So when you're a musician, you work hard, yes, but your work isn't on a daily basis. When you're a poet, you're called to action, and they tend to have, or you're a podcaster. Yes, there's work that's done behind the scenes, and I'm not trying to say there's no work. Of course, there's loads of work that's done. But they often have, I'm generalizing, and forgive me, they often have more time, I find. The creators that I know, they often have more time on their hands. And also, they haven't worked, they've become successful in their creative industry. Some of them very successful. But they haven't had to work for it in the same way that we've had to work for it. And they haven't had to, so their understanding of the way of life, real life, is very different. So when they go to it's given to them. A lot of things are given to them. So their way of understanding of communication, or this is normal and this is not normal, is very different. Because their norm is not what our norm is. And to the average person, is not the norm. And I'm talking about like musicians, artists, like on high level as well, some of them, some varying degrees. And I just find they are very slow to implement anything. Oh my God, it takes forever. So I don't want to waste my time telling you or sharing ideas with you, and you're saying you want help, and I'm like, hey, well, why don't you explore this? You could only be an artist in this particular, or do this for a certain amount of time. You're an athlete. You literally have a clock winding down. So where's the diversity piece? How are we going to leverage your audience? How are we going to diversify you or rebrand you? And everything is just so slow. And then they don't take action, and then they're up and down. So 1 minute they're on a high, they're active, next minute they're on a low, and they're slow. And it's like, oh my God, I just can't. I just want to see.
So why is that a problem for you?
Because I only have a finite amount of time, and therefore the people that I educate and give my knowledge to, I want to see results in what you do. I don't want to have the same conversation 1 year later, right? Byron, I really want to get into podcasting. Okay, cool. Let's sit down and plan it. 1 year later, yes, they don't have the same drive, I find, in my experience, respectfully to them, as we would have, or people that are trying to achieve and elevate to what they want. Because they're hungry. It's different. And also there's sometimes just an easier play for them where they don't have to do all this work, and they don't want to sit in a podcast studio and talk for 1 hour, on something that might generate revenue. They don't want to do that. So it's just different.
So what do you think their motivations are then?
If I don't know. So
if you were to come at this and go like, okay, I want to see the world through that lens and experience it through that lens.
I'm still trying to figure it out. And I've been asked to be a manager of many, many people, familiar names and many people, because I have a creative kind of mind and I know how to find to connect with the audience, and I know how to find the money. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Can you manage me? Here's another thing. They don't like to pay. They don't like to spend any money. Oh my God. They don't like to spend any money. And that's countless times. I just find it incredible because they're so used to getting it for free.
It definitely isn't. I think there's certain drivers that I've seen. So if I think about, as a client that we work with in my staffing agency, 4 massive clubs, big spaces, event spaces, hold amazing bands.
Yeah.
Now, I obviously work on the drink side, the staffing side. Let's make you more revenue. Let's get your sales up. Let's talk about your ROIs, what you're putting in, what you're getting out. The person who owns it is a creative. So they've come from the band land.
Are they famous?
Yes.
That's the other caveat I want to put in there.
Yes.
Famous.
So they've got cash.
A famous creative.
Yeah.
That's where I want to
Famous creative.
Yes.
So they've got the cash in the bank. They've bought these venues, packed them out, very good experiences. But from an operational perspective, they've got a tiny bar in every single one of them. Why the fuck have you put a small bar when you've got a capacity of what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're going to make the money by having...
And they don't want to spend the money, right?
Well, we've managed to sway them to show them ways that they can generate revenue on the drinks, but there's been so much pushback. Oh no, we don't want, if the band's on, we don't want someone to come over and, suggest that someone buys a drink because we want them to be focused on the band. But you're missing out on all this revenue.
But let the customer decide what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And why have you got a space selling drinks if you're not looking to sell the drinks? So I think there's different motivations.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe it's not what we would see as growth or progress in business.
Yeah.
Of let's make more money or whatever it might be. It might be, in this case, creating an experience. Letting people hear the music, letting them be in that vibe, in that feeling state. Sure. And perhaps that's the disconnect.
Or conversely, me as a customer in that environment, I want to go and get a drink when the bar's not busy and the band is playing. That is me. I'm there for the band.
And I want a drink.
But I don't want to queue up. I saw the queue at the interval and I don't want to wait in that queue.
Well, that was the operations manager's pushback. Yeah. It was that people are leaving because of the 20-minute queue at the bar.
Yeah.
So we need to do something about it because they're not even staying to see the band because they also want the drink. So yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know.
So who do you mentor then if it's not creatives? What's your ideal?
I have gone through that. When I say creatives, I mean celebrity or whatever. Famous creatives. But I've mentored from over 100 industries now we looked at the other day. Coaches, consultants, tech, fintech, PR. We've got someone who just came in who's doing PR, podcasters. It's a whole array. If you need customers in life and or you need to brand yourself as an entrepreneur, then that's what we do. We help you do that. Go through that journey. We've been doing that for the last 6 years. I think it will be our last 12 to 18 months. Not announced officially yet. Just because we're quite a low ticket to get in. But our business model has always been once you come in and you taste the product, you'll love it, you'll stay. So our customers will buy multiple products and services from us. And that's worked very well. But the mentoring doesn't generate the revenue we generate from other things. That is a third, 10% of the time. But we just love it. So we meet so many cool people. We see real life change impacting generations to come, and it's like, get
your people to step up and do it for you. You don't need to get rid of it.
One of the reasons why I feel, and you're right to a degree, because I have seen other people do this, where they have transitioned and brought other people through. But with the way we do the way it's currently set is very challenging because we are so skilled in most areas of business, whether it's funnels, whether it's trademarking, whatever it may be, you would have to have multiple people come on board.
Right.
Whereas we do the Speakers Academy, it's much easier to get a presenter. It's much easier to get someone who teaches that one area because it's now just about speaking. Whereas entrepreneurship,
it's so broad and diverse. Yeah. And when you get someone who's going to come through your front door, you don't know what they're going to need.
You're just like, Byron, I need to get funding for my podcast. Cool, here's a strategy. You know, I need to find out how I can get these people onto my podcast. Cool, here's a strategy. So that is just all here, locked in the brain, and so hard. Whereas there's other products we can do that can have a team that deliver. And one of the things about our mentoring is it's actually us that delivers it. You know, so people love that as well. So
how much, to say you get that person coming through the front door, how much do you look at that individual and who they are versus the strategies that you have?
It's all over the years, we've found there are some key things every entrepreneur needs. Whether you're service-based, there are some key things. So we've kind of made it now so that you have some pre-recorded training sessions and then you have live Q&A. But you have one-to-ones and they're bespoke, of course. So it is semi-bespoke. But everyone thinks their problem is unique. And then they're like, do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need this? Well, it's all actually really pre-recorded because we've mentored 1,000 people and we've heard all the stories.
Of course. No problem is unique.
Yeah. Very rarely do we hear like, oh, that's a new one. And some people have no business and they come in. Some people have business and come in. And sometimes I say, look, iron sharpens iron, and you want to come in and you want to plug those gaps in training, and like, you know, there's levels to everything, you know. So my nearest competitor for my Speakers Academy is doing $1 million a month. You know, we're 12 months into doing the Speakers Academy because we've been speaking for 12 years, and I've been managing Bianca's speaking journey for 10 years. And now we're translating it to other people, and people are making 10 grand for a talk. We had let me make sure it's the right currency. It was actually $10,000. She's a brand new speaker.
Beautiful.
People making $2,500.
But let's face it, the US market pays. I know from speaking, the US market pays. So
the US market is insane. So, but also and you can now do that from the comfort of your home, Zoom.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing about it, and we're seeing all these results. So that's why I think the mentoring will stop, but still to do something else for the people, the Speakers Academy will grow.
And you are still mentoring, because that is a form. It's taken a different shape. It might not be like all entrepreneurs, but you are mentoring people in something that is obviously working and paying and getting. Still mentoring. It's just more targeted, and I can grow with the team. I can have you deliver this section. I can have you deliver that section. Yeah. And it's it doesn't have to be as frequent, and the revenue works as well. So ticks all the boxes. And so what is it purely you've decided to focus on that because it makes you more money? Like, what has been your decision making process in that? Was it part of having your baby Carl?
I was looking at having the kid, and then I was like, okay, we can't. First of all, we've been in the market for 6 years. We've helped a ton of people. I think my service to the industry is nearly done from that respect. Then transitioning, now I'm a father and I have other responsibilities. Okay, cool. And now as well, he gets sick and whatever, or in the future, I need to have time to be able to spend with the family, because we normally have 1 to 2 days per week for mentoring at the moment. And I have my other businesses as well, right? So I think the fatherhood is also an aspect of, okay, I need to reclaim my time back a little bit. And then, of course, revenue is also a factor. Okay, this activity and other activities in our business far outweigh the entrepreneurs, but we've hit our target of 1,000 people that we've helped that have gone through it. So now it's not confirmed yet, but I do believe 2025 will be that transition of we're no longer doing it. We've already changed it now. There's only times you can onboard, and next year will be your final hurrah. We're never doing this again.
There you go. So people need to jump in early if they're hear this announcement, guys.
Yeah, when they see it, they'll be like, oh, but we've served a lot of people, so it's been good fun.
So this podcast is called Provocateurs.
Yeah, go on, tell me.
Yeah, Jeez. Like you tell me.
No, you tell me.
How do you relate to the concept of being provocative in your entrepreneurship journey?
Oh, great question.
Or in life. You don't even have to make it about entrepreneurship.
Define provocative, first of all.
What does it mean to you?
Well, I want to make sure I answer your question in the right way.
So disruptive.
Yeah.
Someone who isn't part of the status quo.
Yeah.
Pokes the bear.
Yeah. I always say to my mentees, there are no rules. Yeah. And whilst people might think I'm quite a risk taker, I like a quite peaceful life. So I like quite a peaceful life. So whilst I do take some risk, I don't like stress. However, there are no rules. If you want to do something, you can do whatever you want. There is nothing you cannot do, providing it doesn't defy the laws of gravity and physics. Well, we fly through the air, whatever. So being provocative, what does it mean to me? Having no, not boundaries, but having no self-limiting beliefs, knowing that you can achieve whatever your mind can conceive, providing it doesn't defy the laws of gravity and physics, and being proactive to going out there and doing it, because you can have whatever you want in this world, I believe. With a plan, with strategy, with consistency. And as an entrepreneur, we don't live a conventional life. But sometimes we are our biggest enemies sometimes, our worst enemies. And even this, I have to always remind myself, what's on my list? I've been thinking about it too long. Let's just do it. And I like to practice what I preach. From last year, I was like, I want to write for Forbes. Cool. How do we do this? Cool. Boom, 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 boom. Now I was writing for Forbes. It was an incredible journey. I'm no longer writing for Forbes as of January. Now and then I said, I want to write for this other publication. Sent them a couple of messages, had conversations, had meetings. Cool. This is what we can do, we can't do. I'm still deciding on what I want to do. You can do whatever you want. Be productive, be provocative, and just go and get it.
Less talk, more action. Yeah, I definitely connect with that. And I think this year we decided to take my company out to Dubai, which I know you're a big fan of.
Yeah.
We sat on that decision 2 years ago, and then had, like I said, my sister passed away, just some things that life throws at you. And then this year we were like, the UK nightlife hospitality is in an interesting situation right now, right? It's in an interesting transition. So we were like, right, well, now is our time. Go.
Yeah.
Didn't think about it twice. That plan was sat there, didn't overthink it, just pulled the triggers and made the moves. And go. And
it will be, when you look back, I believe, because obviously we had these conversations, I believe it was going to be one of the best decisions you've made.
Yeah.
And if you just look at comparatively, even if you just looked at the numbers, how many club nights are there in London and how many club nights are there in Dubai on a daily basis? It's not even measurable. You can't even
think about it. Yeah.
It's not even measurable, right?
No. It's
so the opportunity is way different. So I think you're gonna love it.
It was an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then with that, we were like, we're also doing the Austrian ski season.
Yeah.
Got some stuff going in Portugal. Had bits in Ibiza for years.
Yeah.
But it made us just start looking global.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes you've got to be pushed into that situation. Yeah. There's a trigger that you got to pull, and then boom, you start. Now we're like, right, let's license this thing to have global entities kind of everywhere, and that sparks the next thing.
And even that is like conversation sometimes. I'm sure you had the conversation about Dubai with many people.
Yeah.
Just who do you have access to, your network. These are all like help you on that decision making process to show you that there's something else out there.
100%.
Then you go, I think it's going to be very good for you.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And I love what you said there. It's about a mindset shift, not having limiting beliefs. That's the way that you relate to being provocative.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Jeez.
Wow. Today's been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
I've loved having you. So I want to know how, if guests here want to connect with you, want to follow what you do, want to know more about your work, what is the way, what are your books, what is your best line of contact?
So you can just Google me, Byron Cole, Dr. Byron Cole. Instagram at Mr. B Self-Made. Of course, LinkedIn. You gotta push the LinkedIn as well. Just type my name into Google, it will come up. So they're the easiest ways. Again, Amazon, just type my name into Amazon and our 3 books will come up on Amazon. Self-Made, Rich Forever, The Business Survival Kit. One's about money and finance, what they didn't teach you about money and finance in school. One's about starting, growing, scaling your business, self-made. And then we have the business survival kit, which is more about the things they don't talk about in business. Managing stakeholder relationships. What happens when things go wrong? So they're with the 2 largest publishers in the world, Penguin and Hachette. We're actually writing 2 more books, but that's another story. Wow. So yeah, they're the books. Go check them out. Incredible books. And I'm not just saying that. The numbers say it all. So yeah, they're the books.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, Byron.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.